They said the Filipino spirit was quiet, too quiet, that it laughed too easily, forgave too quickly, and avoided conflict even when pushed. But when a Chinese general publicly declared that Filipinos can't fight, millions heard it as more than an insult. It felt like a challenge, a dare, and a test of national character. No one expected what happened next, because the response didn't come from politicians or generals. It came from ordinary Filipinos, soldiers, fishermen, students, who turned an insult into a turning point the world would never forget. General Zhao, a decorated and feared military strategist, made the statement during a televised briefing. Filipinos lack discipline and strength, he said. They can't fight seriously. His words rippled across Asia instantly. Commentators replayed the clip, analysts dissected every phrase, and social media exploded. Some Filipinos were angered, others amused, but everyone felt the weight of the remark. For a country accustomed to underestimation, this was different. It was a direct attack on identity and resilience, and it demanded a response. Meanwhile, in a small military camp in Zambales, a young Filipino soldier named Captain Elias Ramos watched the clip silently. He wasn't the strongest in his batch, nor the most intimidating, but he had something many overlooked: endurance forged from hardship and compassion born from community. His father was a fisherman bullied by foreign vessels, his mother a teacher who taught him dignity. When he heard the general's words, something ignited in him, not rage, but determination to show the world who Filipinos truly were. Elias's unit had long been overshadowed by larger, better-funded forces in the region. Their equipment was outdated, their vessels modest, and their training environment harsh. But what they lacked in machinery, they made up for with grit, adaptability, and teamwork. They trained under the scorching sun, through monsoon rains, and on rugged terrain that shaped their spirit. The general's insult became an unspoken motivation. Every push-up, every drill, every strategy session felt heavier and more urgent. Across the Philippines, the general's statement fueled discussions in universities, workplaces, and homes. Students debated history, recalling times when Filipinos stood against colonization, dictatorship, and disaster. Fishermen shared stories of defending their waters armed with nothing but wooden boats and unshakable courage. Even overseas Filipino workers chimed in, reminding the world of the resilience that allowed them to build lives in foreign lands despite challenges. For the first time in years, Filipinos felt united by a shared spark. International media began covering the controversy, describing it as the insult heard across Asia. Commentators expected diplomatic protests, angry speeches, or heated confrontations. Instead, something unexpected happened. The Philippines quietly prepared for an international military exercise scheduled months earlier. It was called Shield of the Pacific, a joint training among several nations, including the Philippines and China. Suddenly, the event took on new significance. The world waited. Would the general's words prove true, or would Filipinos rise? On the first day of the exercises, foreign troops arrived with advanced gear and towering confidence. The Chinese platoon entered the field with silent precision, their movements sharp and intimidating. Cameras followed them, expecting dominance. When the Filipino contingent marched in, onlookers whispered. They seemed smaller, lighter, and less equipped. But what people didn't see was the fire beneath their calm faces. Elias led his unit with quiet steadiness, reminding them, "Today we don't fight with anger. We fight with heart." The first challenge was an endurance march through mountainous terrain. Many expected Filipinos to struggle. Instead, they moved like they were walking home from the rice fields. They joked, encouraged one another, and kept a steady pace. By midday, several foreign participants lagged, but the Filipino unit remained intact. Even when sudden rain turned the ground into mud, they kept pushing forward. Cameras captured their smiles despite exhaustion, proof of the spirit the general underestimated. During a river crossing drill, Elias noticed a South Asian soldier struggling against the current. Without hesitation, he dove in, guiding the soldier to safety before returning to complete the task himself. The act wasn't part of the competition, yet it earned admiration. Commentators described it as the Filipino instinct to help even in competition. When asked why he risked his performance, Elias simply said, "A true fighter protects people, not pride." Meanwhile, General Zhao observed silently from a raised platform. He kept a straight face, but the subtle tightening of his jaw revealed surprise. His expectation was to see disorganization, complaints, or fatigue. Instead, he witnessed unity, kindness, and resilience. Something he didn't plan for, something he didn't understand. And as cameras continued capturing Filipino performance, online audiences across Asia began questioning whether strength should only be measured by force or by spirit. The next phase involved tactical problem-solving. Teams from different nations simulated hostage rescue scenarios, navigating tight spaces and unpredictable conditions. The Filipino team, known for improvisation due to limited resources, excelled unexpectedly. They created makeshift tools from available materials, communicated with uncanny synergy, and completed the mission in record time. Analysts were stunned. Filipinos turn limitations into advantages, one remarked. It was a cultural trait, resourcefulness born from decades of making the most of little. But the turning point came during a live simulation island defense drill. Each unit had to secure a small island from hostile forces, using strategy, not brute strength. Many participants relied on heavy gear, drone surveillance, and complex formations. The Filipino squad approached differently. Elias studied the terrain intimately, using local-style tactics inspired by fishermen, farmers, and indigenous communities. They used the environment to blend, move, and strike precisely. As the drill began, foreign troops advanced loudly with mechanical confidence. Meanwhile, the Filipino team dispersed quietly, like shadows slipping into familiar terrain. Within minutes, they disabled communication towers, ambushed opposing units using natural cover, and secured defensive positions. By the time the opposing team realized what was happening, the Filipinos had already completed 80% of mission objectives. Observers were astonished. "They move like they belong to the land," one commander said. General Zhao, still watching, leaned forward. For the first time, he understood. Filipinos didn't fight with theatrics, they fought with instinct, calm, patient, and deeply connected to their environment. And this was what he miscalculated. They weren't trying to dominate, they were trying to survive. And survival, when mastered, becomes its own form of strength, perhaps the strongest of all. In the final minutes of the drill, the opposing team attempted a surprise counterattack. Many expected the Filipinos to retreat due to inferior equipment. Instead, Elias coordinated a maneuver inspired by the way fishermen encircle a school of fish. His team moved swiftly, flanking the attackers with precision and securing the objective flawlessly. It was a brilliant adaptation that left the observers speechless. The announcer declared, "Mission complete." Fastest time, Philippines. The field erupted in applause. Even foreign troops cheered, acknowledging the skill and ingenuity they witnessed. Cameras zoomed in on the Filipino contingent hugging, celebrating with humility. No boastful display, no taunting, just quiet pride. Elias simply saluted the crowd, unaware that the video of that moment would soon go viral across Asia. Online, the narrative shifted overnight. Clips of the Filipino performance dominated social media. Hashtags like #FilipinoStrength and #SilentWarriors trended globally. Comment sections filled with admiration. "Never underestimate a nation with heart," one user wrote. Another posted, "Filipinos fight differently through unity." The general's insult, once a source of outrage, was now a spark for global respect. But the story didn't end with performance alone. After the exercises, foreign troops interacted casually. The Filipino contingent invited them to try local snacks, dried mangoes, chicharron, suman. Laughter filled the camp as cultural barriers faded. Soldiers from Japan, South Korea, Australia, and India commented on the warmth of the Filipinos, surprised by how friendship came so naturally to them. It became clear that Filipinos didn't just excel in training, they excelled in humanity. During a joint debriefing, several commanders praised the Filipinos for exceptional teamwork, creativity, and adaptability. They highlighted how the Philippines' unique culture, shaped by colonization, disaster, migration, and diversity, produced individuals capable of thriving in unpredictable conditions. Elias received special recognition for leadership and altruism. When interviewed, he responded with humility, "We're not trying to be the strongest. We just never give up." Back in China, the general statement resurfaced. Journalists asked if he stood by his words. For a while, he avoided the topic, but eventually he gave an unexpected response. "Strength comes in different forms. I underestimated that." It wasn't an apology, but it was an admission, something no one expected from a man known for absolute pride. The world noted the shift. In the Philippines, children in schools began reenacting the drills during play. Soldiers across the archipelago felt renewed confidence. Ordinary citizens, especially overseas workers, proudly shared the viral videos, saying, "This is who we are." The event turned into a moment of collective healing for a nation often overlooked or underestimated on the global stage. Elias returned home, briefly to visit his parents. His father, weathered by the sea, embraced him tightly. "Anak," he said, "you showed them what we've always known, that Filipinos are fighters, not because we seek conflict, but because life trained us to endure." His mother prepared a feast, and neighbors gathered to celebrate him. Yet Elias felt undeserving of the attention. "I only did my duty," he kept saying. Soon after, a new challenge emerged. A typhoon struck a neighboring Asia-Pacific nation participating in the joint exercise. Many areas were devastated, communication lines down, and thousands stranded. International aid was limited due to dangerous conditions. Without waiting for orders, the Filipino contingent volunteered to lead the rescue team, citing their experience navigating storms and rough terrain. Once again, they showed their true strength, not in simulated combat, but in real emergencies. Elias and his team coordinated search and rescue missions, braving floods and landslides. They guided foreign troops unfamiliar with tropical disasters, teaching them techniques passed down by generations of Filipinos who had survived countless typhoons. Videos of the operations spread worldwide. Filipino soldiers carrying children, rebuilding shelters, sharing food with victims. The world saw a different kind of heroism, strength rooted in compassion. Foreign commanders publicly praised the Filipinos, stating they saved thousands of lives. One said, "You don't truly understand Filipino bravery until you witness it during disaster." Another added, "Where others panic, they remain calm. They move like people who have battled storms their whole lives." This rescue operation cemented global respect far more than any military drill could. General Zhao, watching from afar, felt compelled to address the unfolding events. During a press conference, he acknowledged the Filipino humanitarian response, saying, "There is a form of courage that cannot be taught, only lived." Filipinos seem to possess that naturally. His words shocked the international community. For a man who once dismissed an entire nation's capability, the turnaround was nothing short of historic. When asked what changed his mind, he answered, "Strength without empathy is dangerous. Empathy without strength is fragile. But Filipinos combine both. That is something rare." His statement was replayed across global news networks, becoming a defining moment of the controversy. Even those critical of him admitted that recognizing one's misjudgment required humility. The Philippine government honored Elias and his unit with the Bayanihan Medal, a new award recognizing service that uplifts national dignity. During the ceremony, the president said, "Captain Ramos and his team did not fight to prove the general wrong. They fought because it is in the Filipino heart to rise when challenged, to help when needed, and to persevere when doubted." The crowd erupted in applause as Elias stepped forward. Yet the most meaningful moment for Elias came when a young boy approached him after the ceremony. The boy said, "Sir, My classmates said Filipinos are weak, but when I saw you, I felt proud. I want to be strong like you one day. Elias knelt, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and replied, Strength isn't about fighting, Anik. It's about protecting people. If you can do that, you're already strong. The story of the insult and the Filipino response became a documentary viewed by millions. It was titled, The Silent Warriors of the Pacific. Footage of the drills, rescues, and emotional interviews touched hearts worldwide. Production studios praised the narrative for highlighting a nation often portrayed through stereotypes rather than truth. It was a reminder that stories could reshape global perception. Months later, during another international summit, foreign officials approached the Philippine delegation with newfound respect. Instead of being sidelined, Filipino representatives were invited to lead discussions on disaster response, humanitarian cooperation, and community-based resilience. Their perspective, once overlooked, was now highly sought after. It was an unexpected but meaningful ripple effect of the events that unfolded. Elias continued his service quietly. He rejected offers to become a public figure or influencer, choosing instead to train new recruits. He believed the next generation of Filipino soldiers needed not just physical strength, but emotional resilience and cultural pride. He often reminded them, Your weapon is your heart. Never forget who you fight for. The general's insult, once painful, became a source of national empowerment. Instead of dividing Filipinos, it united them. Instead of weakening morale, it strengthened resolve. And instead of humiliating the Philippines, it showcased their greatest asset, the ability to rise with dignity. What was meant to belittle an entire nation became the very reason the world finally recognized its courage. Foreign analysts now reference the incident in military academies as a case study in misjudgment. They emphasize that underestimating a people based on stereotypes can lead to strategic failure. The Filipino example proved that heart, resilience, and adaptability were just as important as firepower. Many cadets admitted they now viewed the Philippines with admiration. For Filipinos across the world, the story became a symbol of identity. Whether they were migrant workers, students, athletes, or soldiers, it reminded them that their worth didn't depend on global recognition. Their strength had always existed, silent, enduring, and deeply rooted in shared struggle. All they needed was a moment to show it. And so, the world learned a lesson it would never forget. You can question a Filipino's size, wealth, or equipment, but never their spirit. Because when pushed, they rise. When underestimated, they excel. When insulted, they respond with action, not anger. And what happened after a Chinese general said Filipinos couldn't fight didn't just silence critics. It reminded the world that true strength often comes from the most unexpected places. Thanks for watching.